Welcome back everybody, Todd here. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. Hey, today we're going to do the first service on Laura's NX500. We've got 606 miles. It calls for first service at 600 miles, so you can't get much better than that. I've gone ahead and I've purchased the filter. I've got the oil. Let's go ahead and jump into this oil change, and then you're going to see I do a lot more on my first service than just change the oil. So hey, tag along with me and let's get into it. I typically like to do my first service and put an OEM oil filter on there. I just didn't want to wait for one to come in the mail. I ran down to the local auto parts store. They had this. I looked it up online. This is a K&M KN204-1, which is the equivalent of the OEM. So I'm going to go ahead and put this filter on. I had some of the Honda motor oil. I bought a gallon last time and only used a little, so I have plenty in here to do the service. I looked it up. In the owner's manual. Certainly calls for the Honda motor oil, so now I have everything I need for this first service oil change. And I like to do that, try to keep it with the OEM stuff, just because, you know, the bike's going to be under warranty for the first 12 months. We're 600 miles into this bike. God forbid something happens. I want to be able to show receipts for OEM stuff. I want to be able to show that I used OEM stuff or the equivalent to make sure I'm in compliance with what might be required to keep the bike under warranty. So okay, enough about the legalities, but let's go ahead and move forward. Okay, as most of you know, we got to run the bike, warm up that oil. We need to run it enough to get the oil moving and get it circulating, get it warmed up, but not so long that, you know, we're working around a super hot engine. So got to kind of strike that balance. Making sure we're in neutral. Here we go. So we're just going to let it run for a few minutes. I'm going to go turn this fan on to push the exhaust out of the garage. I'm going to go ahead and just take a look at where we're at with the sight glass. We're above the bottom, but we're certainly not near the top. And obviously I knew we were getting close to that first service, so I didn't feel like throwing any more in there as long as we're between the lines. But we're going to go ahead and drop that out of there and we'll change it out. Now let's take a look at my setup. You can see I've put my spill mat down. I've got my oil catchment basin there, and I've gone ahead and got my socket and ratchet ready to go. So next stop is going to be to pull that drain plug. Let's go get it. So on the NX500, you can see it comes off the side here, off the back. It doesn't come straight down. So we can anticipate when we crack that open, it's going to kind of shoot out. Now I've got the bike on the center stand, and that oil should fall sufficiently shy of hitting that, but it's going to be in between there and the stand, so make sure you position your catch basin appropriately. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and get that flowing and I'll be back. Okay, we used a 12 mil socket to break that loose. It's loose now. We're going to go ahead and hand tighten it. Ordinarily, I would recommend using gloves, but what's the point? Once this thing goes, try not to drop it. Half the time I drop it in even though I know it's coming. So I'm going to try not to this time. Here we go. Bam. Oh, we're screwed. We are really screwed. It went a lot further than I thought. This is a mess. Yeah, I'm gonna go get a rag. Okay, we've cleaned up the giant oil spill. Hey, and that's why you use an oil spill mat and so on, right? So there you go, NX owners. Be advised, if you're gonna do this on a center stand, yeah, you're gonna have to get up in there and catch it before it spews through there. I used the channel locks because this sucker was more than hand tight, but I think I got it now. Maybe not, yeah, it's moving. All right, let's get this thing off of here now. The key here is to just get it enough. It's gonna start dribbling oil. I don't want the oil to come gushing out and catch these pipes. So when it starts to dribble a little bit, I'm gonna let it go like that. I don't want it to go anymore. We'll just kind of let it go. Obviously, I'll grab a rag. Another reason to have your lint-free shop paper towels. These things right here. These are phenomenal. Great absorption. So we'll be able to clean those pipes up good. Let's go ahead and get this all the way off. There we are. Maybe you can see I've got my low profile oil pan here. Kind of come down, look at that. I love this thing. I use it on all my motorcycles and really low profile. I'll put a link in the description for you. This thing's been a game changer for me on a lot of different service work. But all right, we'll go ahead and let that drain off and we'll be back. Here's our filter. Again, it's that KN 204-1, the KNN, and there you go. We're gonna go ahead and pull the plastic off there. We'll go ahead and put some oil around that, and we'll stick her back on. Okay, we're gonna wipe that off. Definitely wipe these pipes off, huh? You don't need to watch this. I'll wipe that off in a minute, but let's go ahead and clean this all out. All right, I like it. Here's our, I took some of that old oil there off the drip pan and I'm lubing this up. Now some people will fill this up full of oil. Yeah, I've never done that. It's not been a problem. It'll fill on its own. That's the whole idea behind the bike. All right. Let's go ahead and thread that on there. And this should thread real easy. If it's not threading easy immediately, stop, because it'll be cross-threaded. So you just gotta thread that in till it hits home. All right, we're kind of home. I'm gonna grab one of my lint-free shop rags. Wipe some of that oil off there. I'm just gonna hand tighten this. I want to go about a quarter turn. I just go until I can't realistically get it. I'm not going to over snug it. I know there's probably a torque spec and all that jazz, but you know what? There, that's good. I want to be able to get the sucker off there. All right, we'll clean this up and I'll be back. Okay, it's time to put the plug in. Here we go. Here's our plug. And same deal here. You just want to start threading it. You should thread super easy. If it's not threading super easy, you cross-threaded it. See, we're going. We're getting there. All right. I'm going to tear off a little piece of my rag. Use that to just hand tighten it as much as I can. And then I'm going to throw my ratchet on there. I'm not going to overdo it, guys. I'm just there. I won't be able to get it back off. I'll keep an eye on it. If it leaks, I'll hit it again, but you don't have to overdo that thing. It's a crush washer, you know, so it's made to just kind of firm up. So it's a good seal there. So there you go. Now we're ready to throw some oil back in there. So here we go. After draining, it recommends on the NX500 2.5 US quarts. Here's our engine oil. I've gone ahead out of that gallon. I've put 2 quarts in my pitcher. I'm going to start with 2 quarts, put that in there, then I'll come back. I mean, it says 2.5 quarts. I'll probably put 2.25 quarts in there and just run it, see how it levels out, you know, because a lot of times it's been my experience, these things aren't always super accurate. So I don't want to overfill the oil. So let's go ahead, put some oil in it. I'm just going to go with 2.25. And I'm going to run it, I'm going to let it set, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to check it, and I'm going to build it back up based on a sight glass. There's our mileage. Oil change is complete. Oil light is off, and everything's looking good at 607 miles. So here we go. You can see that we're filled back up. We've got it just below that top line on the sight line, so we're good to go. And obviously it looks nice and fresh. Okay, now that the oil change is behind us, let's get into some of the other things that have to be done on this first service. One of the very first things that you should do is go through the entire bike, check every single nut and bolt to make sure that it's snugged up. I'm not going to bore you with that. You know what that looks like, but I will take you along and show you some of the other things that I like to do on a first service. So come on, let's go back over to the bike and check this out. One of the important things that we want to do actually on a regular basis is to just check that clutch lever free play. And you can see the spec there. It's from 3/8 of an inch up to 13/16. Let's take a look. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a tape measure. I'm going to put it against the end of the grip. I'm going to move it straight out, put my line for 1 inch on there. Then I'm going to pull it, and you can see where I'm at. I'm right at just a little, about 5/8 of an inch. So 5/8 of an inch, that's within the spec. I'm not going to mess with it. Next thing that we want to do is come around the other side of the bike and take a look at the free play at the throttle grip flange. So if we look at our spec there, it's between 1/16 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. Let's go ahead and use our tape measure and check that out. Taking a good look at our grip, we can see that we have a nice line right here. And if I go ahead, hold my tape measure stationary here and wiggle it, you can see I'm right at about 1/8 of an inch. Right at about 1/8 of an inch. Well within spec, so we're just going to leave it there. You can see here's our reservoir for the brakes. Plenty of fluid in there, nothing to worry about. Now we'll move on, check the rear brake reservoir. There's your sight glass for the rear. Everything's looking good, plenty of fluid there, nothing to worry about. Obviously, while we're here, we'll double check the oil. We're sitting good, no problem there. We're going to come around the clutch side of the bike here. We're going to look at, here is our coolant reservoir tank. You're going to have to look way down in here, and with autofocus I just don't think it's going to go. You can see the tank down in there and there's lines on it. There's a low line and a high line. So you're going to need to kind of crawl down in here and look at that. But I've done that, and our level's just right at the bottom line. So I am going to add just a little bit of coolant. I've got the bike on the center stand, but I'm now going to take the bike off the center stand because the next thing I want to do is to check out my chain tension to see how much slack I have in that chain. So we'll go ahead, put it on the side stand, then we'll be able to measure that. Here's our spec on the chain slack. You can see down on the bottom there, it's 1 3/16 inches up to 1 9/16 inches of slack. Let's check it out. You can see the trim right here is a fixed object. Here's our chain. We can measure the slack difference between here and here, which is going to give us our measurement. That's the easiest way to do it. You're going to want to do it in between both sprockets, as close to the center as you can get. So the center is going to be right in here behind the stinking center stand, but nonetheless, I'm going to start by pushing that all the way up and taking a measurement to the bottom of that trim piece, and that is going to give me 3/8 of an inch. Then I'm going to push it all the way down, and that is going to give me 1 3/4. So that's going to fall right inside of our tolerance. So there's nothing that we need to do on that chain at this point other than to do another clean on it. And with these chains, with the O-rings on it, you want to be careful with solvents you're using. You want to make sure that you're using a good chain lube and cleaner fluid that's designed for these O-ring type of chains. If you use something with too harsh a cleaning fluids, it can damage those rings. So these are the two products that I use for the chain. Here's our cleanup, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it says right on the back of the can that it is actually designed for the O, X, and Z ring chains without harming the rubber O-rings. And then there's your chain wax or your lube, and I found these to be good value. They easy application as any of them, and yeah, I'll put a link in the description in case you're interested in learning more about those, but I found them to be a good product. On this NX, you're probably aware of the fact that this is an adjustable brake lever, and you've got your dial right here. All you have to do is push your brake lever forward, and that dial will turn very easily. So, you know, you're going to want to go ahead and get this set up so that it's comfortable for you. You don't want it to be such a long reach that you put yourself in a dangerous situation, that in an emergency situation you can't quite reach that. So make sure you get this dialed in for your comfort, and you know, there you go. It's just as simple as, again, pushing that forward and dialing that, and it'll move it forward or backwards. So take the time to do that if you haven't already. Obviously, you've got the battery contacts. This is a brand new bike. I had been in there doing some mods, so I know that the battery is all set. No need for that. We do put the battery on a trickle charger after every single ride. The bike goes out, it's ridden, it comes back in the garage, and it gets plugged in. If you'll do that from a battery maintenance point of view, you're just not going to have an issue. You'll get the most mileage out of these batteries. And if your bike doesn't come with a battery tender lead, it's very easy to put that on and just snake it down there. This stays on the bike at all times. We just unhook it right there, come back for a ride, hook it in. Here's what I'm using right here for you know, your battery tender. I'll put a link in the description. I've got a lot of these in the garage. Another one over here for my Kawasaki. So yeah, there's another one on the other Honda. So yeah, these are the ones that I've used for years on many different bikes and had great luck with those as well. Again, this is a brand new bike. As far as maintenance goes, you know, you're checking your rotors and your brakes and all of those things on a new one. Just just give them a good look over. But at this point, you're less than 1,000 miles, those things should be fine. If you're showing any excessive wear, then you've got a problem, but you probably would hear it in a brake rubbing or something like that. You want to just make sure everything's releasing. When you hit the brakes, they're releasing properly. Make sure that you check your brake lights so that it's coming on immediately when you hit that brake. Make sure your brake lights are coming on. There are adjustments for that. If for some reason there's too much of a hesitation, you could go ahead and read your manual. It'll tell you how to dial that in. But we did an inspection on this. Everything's looking good. I did come across a few bolts that were loose. So again, it does pay to go through there and just check them all. Well, that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate you tagging along as always. Hey, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and then we'll see you back here on the next video.